Hello everybody, and thank you for joining me for this special webinar today. So today we are going to be talking about improvising at the piano. We're going to be talking from beginner to pro. I'm going to give you a bunch of different techniques today that you can work on. All right, so let's jump right in here today. So first of all, everything is going to be recorded and you can view the replays over at Jazzedge Academy. All right, so to do that, all you want to do is go right on over to Jazzedge Academy. You come up here to where it says live, okay? And then this improvise at the piano, and then you could click here to see view all webinar replays, and that will take you right on over to the replay page. You can get there whether you're logged into the site or not. Those replays are completely free. You can access them and everything. If you do want to be able to download the sheet music, you will need to log in. All right, so if you have a question, I will be answering questions later on in this session. You can feel free to go ahead and chat in your questions, and I will be checking the chat area later on and be answering your questions. We're also going to be playing, all right? So I'm going to play several different examples, and I encourage you to play along with me, all right? So if you're following along at home, I'll go slow and try playing the examples along with me. So look at this as like kind of an opportunity to get some practice in today as well, all right? I'm just going to pull up the chat here as well. All right, so next thing. About me, all right, so I've been playing ever since I was a little kid. That's a picture of me right up there with my mom sitting at the piano, all right. I went to Berklee College of Music. That's actually me in a practice room right there, writing out some music. I went to school for film music composition, and after that, started teaching and gigging and performing and all that good stuff, all right. So let's jump into the webinar. How to improvise from pro to beginner. All right, so first of all, the following techniques that I'm going to give you are good for all levels, but I will give you some advanced level techniques later. We're going to start with more beginner techniques, and then later on in the session, we'll go into some more advanced techniques. So there are two things that you have to master to be good at improvisation. All right, so let's just pause for a second. Two things you need to master in order to be good at improvisation. The first one is rhythm. You have to be good at rhythm. If your rhythm is poor, if you don't know how to play in time, if you don't have rhythmic ideas that you can play, or if you don't have rhythmic ideas that you could actually play at the instrument, well, then game over, right? So if all you could do is like play, right? Not going to be a very interesting improvisation if all you can do is quarter notes. Rhythm is the key to improvisation, and really it's the key to all music. Art Blakey once said, famous jazz drummer, that the drummer is the locomotive of the band, and it really is true. Like, that rhythm is so important. The other thing that you need to have is you need to have flow. If you can't flow through your improvisation, meaning that you can't just play without stopping, then again it's going to sound off, right? So if I'm playing, right? It doesn't matter all the notes I'm playing, whether I'm playing fast or slow or cool notes, or whatever. If I'm not playing with a good flow in my improvisation, then it's just going to sound off. Even if I play something simple, but I play it with good flow, right? Just two notes there is all I'm playing. Don't worry, I'm going to switch over to the virtual keyboard so you'll be able to see everything that I'm playing, right? You don't have to worry about what I'm playing. Just kind of listen and you can kind of hear the idea. So it's all about rhythm and flow. Rhythm and flow. Now, the reason I bring this up and I want to break this down so that it's very simple for students is that a lot of times students think, oh, it's scales, it's modes, it's licks, it's chords, it's all of this stuff, this advanced stuff that I have to get down in order to be a good improviser. And it's not. That's not the case. If you have good rhythm and good flow, believe it or not, you can actually make some pretty darn good improvisational lines there, all right? Now, I can tell you this happened definitely to me. My playing definitely changed forever as soon as I stopped worrying about all of the notes that I was playing, and I was really focusing more on how I was playing those notes and really thinking about rhythm and the way that the rhythm and my notes interacted with one another. So if you really want your improvisation to change, think about rhythm and flow. Keep it simple for yourself, because when you improvise, it's just like when you talk. Think about it. When you talk, you're not thinking about every word that you're saying, right? Imagine if you had to think about every word that you were saying, you wouldn't be able to get a word out, right? Like your brain would have to do too much processing. And that's what happens with improvisation. If you're an adult, right, we're smart, we know, logically, you can't really be thinking about what you're going to play when you're improvising. It has to come out naturally, right? So really, the only thing I want you to be thinking about is rhythm and flow. All right, so let's start to break this down. Let's switch over here. All right, so our examples here today are going to use the bass line from Green Onions. This is a premiere course that I'm teaching right now. All right, you will be able to download this sheet music, right, on the webinar replay page. Like I said, you will need to be logged in. Don't worry, you can sign up for a free account to be able to log in and download that music. But if you want the music, you will have to log in and download. All right, so you can play it up here, but a lot of times I'm going to be playing it down here. So you can be playing the bass line down an octave, right? Let's not get overly worried about which octave the sheet music is in. You can go up, you can go down. Really, it's completely up to you. I like it down here because it sounds a little bit more bass-like, right? So this is all that's going on, right? I did a kind of a 5-minute prep lesson yesterday. If you had a chance to take a look at it. If not, don't worry. This is what we're working on right here, right? So the first thing is, let's just work on that as well, right? So I'm just going to put on a metronome, okay? This is going to repeat, so I'll just keep this right here. And let's put the metronome, we'll put the metronome on 70, okay? And let's also, let me just do this because sometimes it's a little bit loud. So let's do this. Here we go. Right? All right, so real simple bass line. Just the F, the octave, right? And it goes to the minor third and to the fourth. And again, like I said, that's all fun. All from that Green Onions lesson, all right? So that bass line. But simple bass line. You could do that bass line. You can go simple bass line like that. Doesn't really matter. The main thing is you just want to have down a simple accompaniment. So that's what we're going to be using is this simple bass line right here, all right? So now you need a steady accompaniment. This is one thing that a lot of students kind of end up getting messed up on, is that if you don't play that bass line steady, right, then it's all going to fall apart. So you have to get that bass line down first. You really have to master that because you're going to be adding stuff in the right hand to that bass line. And guess what? If you need to be thinking about that bass line, well, game over, my friend, right? It's like you're not going to be able to think about two things at once. So make sure that you really have that bass line down nice and steady. All right, so now let's talk rhythm. And this point really messes up just about every student. And that is that what a typical student will do is they'll have a bass line down, and then we'll say, okay, let's use something like 4 notes of the pentatonic scale. So this is F minor penta scale here, right? So they'll say, I got the bass line, I got the notes, now let's go ahead and do it. Happens all the time. I see it constantly where there's a bass line or some type of accompaniment and then some type of improvisational ingredients that a student is going to use to play, and then they can't get the hands together, right? I've seen it, that's the way I was taught, right? It was like, okay, here's your rootless chords and whatnot, and play a blues scale, now go ahead and improvise. The missing link is that rhythm, right? So I'm here to tell you, my friends, it's all about the rhythm. You got to get the rhythm down steady. All right, so what you want to do is you want to start with a super simple rhythm that you can, quote, check. I'm going to show you what it is I mean by that in just a second, okay? So the notes that you choose are really secondary, okay? But use something that's simple to you, right? So you could use, like, this is F minor, right? So if we take a look again, right, you can see that this is F minor, right, that we're improvising over. So with F minor, typically, yeah, the F minor scale, the F blues scale, maybe the 4 notes of the blues scale or 5 notes of the blues scale. We're going to use that F pentascale, right, just that 4 notes of the F minor pentatonic scale, okay? And if you need help on pentatonic scales and stuff like that, there's plenty of lessons inside the site on that. There's warm-ups in pentatonics. That's a great lesson to take a look at. There's a bunch of lessons on pentatonic scales within Jazzedge Academy. But that's what we're going to be using. Just those 4 notes right there. Very simple, okay? No frills, all right? All right, so let's play this example together. All right, so we have, this is from our prep lesson, right? So all we have is just a very simple, and this is what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to make this a little bit bigger and move this over. So we'll just start with this one first, okay? All right, so all we're doing here is in the right hand we have F, A flat, B flat, C, and we come down B flat, A flat, F. If we vocalize this rhythm, which there's a whole vocalization approach in the Mastering Rhythms lesson inside of Jazzedge Academy, it would be D, ba, D, ba, D, ba, da. D, ba, D, ba, D, ba, da. D, ba, D, ba, D, ba, da. Okay, and like I said, if you need help with that vocalization, check out the Mastering Rhythms lessons within the Academy. All right, so pretty simple, right? Just going up and down that pentatonic scale, no frills. Now we got to put it together, okay? So we could do this. Right? We could do that kind of stuff, and I call this the brute force method, in which I'm just going to keep playing this over and over until finally I get it. But please, friends, again, let me remind you this. Every time you play something wrong, you're getting better at playing it wrong. Now, really think about what I just said there, okay? Every time you play something wrong at the piano and you practice it incorrectly, the body remembers, right? Let's use a different example for a second. For any of you that like to go and exercise or whatnot, if you do an exercise, right? If you let's say you're curling a 10-pound weight, right? Not a lot of weight, right? Whatever, 20-pound weight, whatever it is, right? You do that every day for a month. Do you think that that weight is going to feel heavy at the end of the month? We know the answer. Of course, it's not going to. Why? Because the body gets used to that weight, right? So we learn, and a lot of things that we learn at the piano, all right, jumping back to the piano, a lot of things we learn at the piano, we kind of memorize the shape and whatnot, right? So if I say play a C chord, you're not like, what are the notes? Like maybe when you're first starting, but after a while, you're like, oh, there's my C chord right there. You remember the shape and you play it. Well, that's what happens when you practice, right? So if I practice, right, I'm doing all that baloney there. Well, guess what? I'm training my hands to play all of this incorrectly. So you really want to start real slow, start out of time. That means don't worry about the rhythm right now. Start out of time and just try to get the notes to line up. So let's talk about how to do that. First of all, if we look at this, we can literally draw a line right down, right? There's nothing underneath the A flat. There's something under the B flat, there's something under the B flat, and there's something under the F. This is where the notes line up. And this is what I was talking about when I said be able to check yourself, right? You can visually see this is where the notes line up. So now you start real slow, D, and you keep doing that until you can finally start to play a little bit faster. Start to speed it up a little bit more. Notice how as I speed it up, I start to get the feel of that rhythm. D, ba, D, ba, D, ba, da, right? D, ba, D, ba, D, ba, da. D, ba, D, ba, D, ba. Speed it up. Right? Until I feel comfortable with it. Now, I could tell you how to be able to master this lick. Absolutely master it. There's a good news to it and there's bad news to it, right? The bad news is, well, let's start with the good news. You absolutely can master that lick and any other lick. The bad news is it's going to take a lot of practice, right? So there is no shortcut. If you go online, you think, in 5 easy steps. There's no 5 easy steps, okay? It just takes practice. But it takes smart practice. And smart practice is doing this kind of stuff. Lining it up, not playing it in time, making sure you're getting the notes together. Don't do the brute force method. Do this, line it up, get it all set, be able to check yourself. Now, when I say check yourself, like I know I'm going to hit that B flat and that F right here. So what if I do this? right? Oh, I got there before I got here. So obviously I was off. Right? Oh, that's not right. Right? I want to be able to check myself. If you do this method and you practice consistently, you will be successful. I can guarantee that, right? And I know that because I've seen it with literally thousands of students. All right, so now the next thing is, let's take a look at this, right? So now what we could do is we could just flip that around, right? So rather than going up, we now go down. So before we went up and then down, now we're going up, or we're starting up, we're going down, and then we're going back up, okay? So we might think that, oh, well, like that seems pretty simple, but guess what? A lot of times you change it up like that, especially on the fly, and it starts to fall apart on you. So you want to practice that as well. Try going reverse, try going the other way. So. And then obviously, or though maybe it's not so obvious, but you should then be able to, do this. You should then be able to play one to the other, okay? So you should be able to go. Okay, so now let's pause for a second and let's talk about, hey, Willie, I'm not interested in blues or jazz improvisation. I'm only interested in like doing like some kind of blues or funk or gospel or what. Whatever improvisation you're interested in, even that pretty stuff. Whatever style of improvisation you're interested in, you need to learn these basics, okay? And this is a great way to start learning the basics, right? It's just doing a simple accompaniment with some lines over the top. And when I say lines, I'm talking improvisational lines, okay? You might also ask, well, wait a minute, I want to play with a group. I don't want to play solo. Yeah, but here's the thing. You have to be able to play solo, right, before you can actually improvise with a group, right? So if you can't play a steady bass line and a simple bass line like that and improvise over the top of it, I could all but guarantee that you're going to be at a loss being able to play along with a group. So this is a great way of being able to practice alone and be able to have an accompaniment going on. Here's the other thing too, is I could tell you for an absolute fact, because I've played with hundreds of groups over the years, with hundreds of gigs, and you think, oh, there's gonna be a bass player. Well, guess what? Sometimes the bass player has an equipment failure, or sometimes there isn't a bass player. I'll give you one quick anecdote. I remember I got hired for a gig several years ago, maybe about a decade ago now. It's like, oh yeah, cool, man, that's great. I'll be there, you know? Show up to the gig, I'm like, oh, hey, who's on bass? Guess what, my friend? There's no bass player. It was me playing bass. The gig went great, you know, because I have a good left hand and I could kick bass. Luckily, I brought the right keyboard for that. But the point is that if I didn't know how to play a left-hand accompaniment and be able to improvise over the top of it, where would I be? It'd be game over, right? So you have to learn some of this simple stuff. So don't get closed-minded and thinking like, you know, I don't want to do jazz or blues or anything like that. Well, if that's your idea, well, I unfortunately hate to say that you might have a difficult time improvising. Improvising is not about style specific. It's about learning to be creative at the instrument. And being creative means you learn how to be creative in many different disciplines, right? Now you could say, hey, look, I really want to focus on Latin jazz, or I want to focus on bossa nova improvisation or rock, whatever. That's great. But what I'm saying is learn all different kinds of improvisation. Now, if you're interested in rock improvisation or Latin or blues, all of that is in the site, okay? In fact, even in my Confident Improviser program, we go through a bunch of different styles in that program alone. But in addition to that, we have rock pop classes, jazz piano, Latin, all of that. Like every style you can imagine, you're going to find it within the Academy. But today's session, we're just focusing on these simple bass lines in more of like a bluesy, jazzy kind of feel, okay? All right, so that's the F minor penta scale. All right, so now getting back to this. Now that you have a simple rhythm with an accompaniment, let's change it up. And we did that, right? So we changed that around, right? So let's do this now. Let's go here. And now what we're going to do is we're going to change up the notes, okay? So I'm going to leave it bigger like this, the sheet music. Obviously, this over here just repeats the previous measure, so I don't think that you need me to show you the entire music. You can see it's just that, right? It's the same thing as this measure right here, but let's keep it a little bit bigger because I think it would be easier for you to be able to see. Oops, let's move that over. I think we can get away with that, all right? All right, so now take a listen to this example, all right? So you'll notice that what I did was I have the rhythm a little different, and then I also, the last note is different. All right, let's talk first of all about the rhythm. Where can I get these rhythms? So when I'm on the site, I did this whole program called the Confident Improviser, right? There's over 30 different lessons in the Confident Improviser. It goes through all different types of improvisation from the very basic, very, very basic, right? All the way up through like funk, rock, blues, jazz improvisation, all of that stuff, enclosures, quartals, rootless voicings, all of this stuff, right? So a really big, robust program that you could find right inside of the Jazzedge Academy. How you get to that program, if you just go up to the search of where you could search for lessons. You don't have to search, it's actually a lesson collection. So if you just scroll all the way down, I'm not going to be able to show you because it scrolls off the page, but it says the Confident Improviser level 1, 2, and 3. You can get there. All right, so this is level 1 right here. I'm going to click on the sheet music, and this is the sheet music for Confident Improviser exercise number 1. And you'll see what we do in the Confident Improviser is we have an accompaniment, we have notes and ingredients, and we have a rhythm, and then we put it together into an exercise, and then a couple of variations, and then you get a chance to write your own, all right? So let's just focus right now on just this rhythm part right here, okay? So sometimes I know the vocalization seems a little silly. You don't have to say it. You can also count it out. If you want to do 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, that's fine, but a lot of times when swinging, doing that subdivision method like that sounds a little hokey. 1 and 2 and 3, whereas D, ba, sounds a lot more natural vocally. All right, so the rhythm here is da, di, ba, great big whole note. If you don't want to say great big whole note, because I get it, it sounds silly, you just say 1, 2, 3, 4. So try clapping the rhythm with me. Here we go. Da, di, ba, 1, 2, 3, again. Da, di, ba, 1, 2, one more time. Da, di, ba, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so there you go. We got a rhythm. Remember, rhythms are things that we can practice away from the piano, right? We don't have to be at the piano to practice rhythm. So if you want to get your rhythms down, there's a whole bunch of rhythms in TCI as well as the mastering rhythms and all of the other lessons on the site. Okay, so we have that rhythm now. All right, now that we have that rhythm, now all I did was I applied the notes of that F minor penta scale, right? And not the full pentatonic scale, so we're not going up there, but I'm just using the first 4 notes there. And I just applied that rhythm to these notes, okay? So again, let's just make sure that we're on the same page here. Take a look at that rhythm. You see that rhythm is the same rhythm as this, okay? And I just took the notes from that F minor penta and I plugged them into that rhythm, okay? I started with the F, and let's just listen to it. So let me do it again. So not bad. It's different from our other one, right? It's different from all of that we did prior. So it's a little bit of a different lick. However, it sounds a bit off, doesn't it? See if you can pick out where it sounds off. Right? So it sounds a bit off, and where does it sound a bit off? It sounds a bit off on that last B flat, right? I'm hitting that B flat along with that F. And this brings up this point, is that you need to think about where your improvisational lines begin and end, all right? So where are you starting the line and where are you ending the line, okay? So remember I said it's not so much about the notes, but it's really a lot more about where you're beginning and ending, okay? Meaning that if I start on a non-chord tone, what are my chord tones? There's F minor, F, A flat, and C. B flat is not part of that chord, so that would be considered a non-chord tone. It's a tension, it's the 11th or the 4th, however you want to think about it, okay? But still, starting on a tension like that might create a little bit of, well, tension, right? So notice when I started the line, I started on a chord tone, but when I'm ending this line, I'm ending on a non-chord tone. Okay, so let's play this example and let's see if this sounds any better, right? So let's go over here and do this now. So you notice that it's exactly the same example, but now I'm ending on the F. Do it slowly, and you can play it along with me, all right? Now, one thing that I like to do is, and then I have this as part of the Premiere course, is that you can download the iReal Pro track, right? And you can play along with the drums or bass if you wanted to. But right now, we're just gonna play along with the drums. Okay? Let's start with the bass line first. Do it 2 more times. Now let's add that right hand. All right, so notice that I not only did this one, but I also went back and kind of played around with these as well. And I kind of just mixed them together, right? Because what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to create as many different improvisational lines as I can, okay? All right, so now you want to continue in this fashion. You want to build out your improvisational lines. So you can take rhythms from TCI, right? You can come up with your own rhythm. You can branch off and start to use other scales and other notes if you wanted to. But I would say, like, really exhaust the possibilities of what you have right there. So again, you have these notes, right? We've done a couple of simple rhythms. Well, what if we start on an upbeat? Do a rhythm like ba-dee, ba-da, da. Ba-dee, ba-da, da. Right, so I want to get comfortable with that left hand. I want to exhaust all of the possibilities of what I could do with these 4 notes in the right hand. Usually where students go wrong and what really screws them up is that they try branching off into something more complicated too fast, right? There is a lot that you can get out of just 4 notes, believe it or not. So check this out. I'm just going to play around for a little while, and let's add in the iReal Pro just for a little bit of fun here, okay? I just went through and played like 16 measures or so, just playing around with 4 notes. You notice that I'll repeat an idea, I might kind of tweak the idea, maybe go one direction with the idea and then change it around. But the idea, the main idea here is that I'm trying to keep something simple and I am thinking about rhythm and flow. rhythm and flow. Now, one great way of keeping your rhythm and flow is playing along with like that backing track, either a metronome or the backing track with something like iReal Pro. Okay, like I said, those iReal Pro tracks are included in those Premier courses. All right, so moving on, let's talk about some advanced ideas now. Okay, all right, so first advanced idea here is what about utilizing some triplets? So, so those triplets in there really add some nice alteration and flavor and spice to the improvisation, because now we're getting a little bit faster than eighth notes, but we're not going as fast as, say, a 16th note. Right? So the 16th notes might be a little bit too fast. Those eighth note triplets, though, are a nice sweet spot. So try changing the rhythm. Utilizing some of those triplets in there is a great way of doing that. You'll also notice that what I'm doing now in these advanced ideas is I'm thinking, okay, now I have my full F minor pentatonic scale. And now, notice, notice that I'm not just going up and down the scale, I will change around the pattern of that pentatonic scale. So one great thing to do is just sit down and just... All I'm doing is just trying to create lines slowly and steadily just on that full F minor pentatonic scale. Okay, let's do this line now. We'll go slower though. Notice I put a little staccato on that quarter note. A lot of times when I'm playing those quarter notes, I'm playing them staccato anyway. You heard that before? Right, that last quarter note, I don't hold it out. Hold that out, I play that short, okay? So here I just added the staccato just so you know to play it short. 2, 3, 4. All right, let's break it down even slower. I'm starting with my second finger. 5, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then cross over, 3, 2, 1, 4. And you can continue that triplet feel. So check this out. Some of those cool, like, kind of hemiola effects that you can get with that rhythm. Now you can hear how the rhythm starts to raw against itself. I'm thinking triplets. Triplet, 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 triplet. You can hear where that first triplet is coming in and it's changing each time. You start to do that over that bass line. You can get some really, really cool sounds there. So anyway, play around with those triplets and then keep, extending that line further out, okay? Second idea is you could do kind of like what I was just doing there. You could start to move outside. So this is where you take the harmony outside. You can go up half step. So I can go up to that F sharp minor pentatonic. Right? Oops, sorry, let me do it again. What do we? There we go. That's it. Now, you know one thing I should have done? I should have made that a C sharp. I'm sorry. I'll change that into music before I load that up. Yeah. That's it. Let's load up the iReal Pro track on this. So now, where it gets challenging is, especially like when we're used to, as musicians, doing this in real time, when you start slowing this down and then writing it out, it gets challenging. But the beauty is that then you can start to line stuff up, right? So you can start to line these notes up and be able to see, all right, well, where does this stuff line up? But this is a great technique as well. So like... Right? Now, you can also start to utilize some of those chordals. Get some really advanced sounds. But that gives you a couple of ideas that you can kind of work off of and start to play and start to have some fun with that, right? There's plenty of different advanced ideas. If you need more help with that, there's a lot of advanced lessons on the site. And don't forget, you also have access to live teachers, right? So in our classes. So you could check with Paul, you could check with Nina, you could check with me. We all do live classes. So that's a great way of being able to interface and interact with a live teacher as well. All right, so now let's talk some practice actions. This is the stuff that I would like you to work on. So the first practice action that I want you to do is this. Let's go back here. I want you to just get down the steady bass line. Okay, so like I said before, you could put the metronome on if you want. You could put on an iReal Pro track. Doesn't matter. I'm not going to bother to do that right now, but actually no. Let's actually put the metronome on. I say that. We'll put it down to 70. I just want you to get the steady bass line down. Want to get up to a point of in which you're probably somewhere around 100 or so. Whoops, not 210. There you go. just practicing this several times, at least 20, 25, 30 times with the metronome or the backing track. Just get down that steady bass line. Like I said, if you don't have that steady accompaniment, then improvisation is going to be really, really difficult for you. All right? So that's practice action number 1. Practice action number 2, play that penta scale over the bass line. All right? So that's what this is right here. You can go forward, you can go reversed, right? So I want you to do this. Right? Real simple, something that you can line up and you know exactly if you're on or not. Again, that should be practiced along with that metronome or the backing track. Remember, let's talk about tempo, all right? You don't have to play at 100 beats per minute. If you need to go slower, go slower. It's absolutely fine, okay? If you find that, hey, look, going reversed is too much, then just go forward. And if you have to go this slow, nothing wrong with that at all. Perfectly fine. This I can work with. Why? Because you're playing with flow and good rhythm. That we can speed up. This, that's a hot mess. We can't do anything with that. So start slow. Don't worry if you can't play at whatever tempo is being suggested. You can go ahead and play it slower. All right, so that's practice action number 2. Play that simple pentascale over the bass line. Practice action number 3. Now change the order of the notes. Okay, so this is where you're going to go in. I'm not going to bother to load up the sheet music. You got those 4 notes, right? You could change the order. And then thinking once again about the note that you end on. We ending on the B flat there, you know, okay, well. Right? We want to think about where we're ending those lines to make sure that, you know, for right now, if let me pull back. You only have to worry about where those lines are ending if it sounds off to you. Okay? If it sounds fine to your ears, then don't fret about that right now. But if it starts to, if you feel like, oh man, my lines just feel like, you know, they sound like garbage. Well, think about where you're starting the line, think about where you're ending the line, right? Because that right there might fix the problem. Right? But you don't have to get, you know, overly conscious and worry about that if your lines are like, hey man, I'm really digging what I'm playing here. If you're digging what you're playing, just keep on digging what you're playing, all right? So practice action number 3, I want you to change the order of the notes. Keep the same rhythm. Can't stress that enough. Keep the same rhythm. Why? Because you can get a lot of mileage out of that one rhythm by changing those notes. Okay, and that's going to really help improve your technique because you'll be able to stay steady because the logic would hold that that rhythm you should really kind of know now because you've played it so many times. You start changing the rhythm and the notes, now you have 2 new variables that are coming into your playing, and with 2 new variables, you have more of an option of making a mistake. Okay, there's more possibilities of making that mistake. And then finally, practice action number 4. Use the confident improviser or your own rhythms to create 3 new lick variations. All right, so let's say I'm going to do like a triplet. Ba triplet dee ba da. Ba triplet dee ba da. Ba triplet dee ba da. I wasn't going to do this, but I'm going to do something a little bit special for you guys as well, because I want you to be able to have some of these ideas. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to write out 3 licks right now for my practice action, right? Normally this would be me as the student, I would write this out, but I'm going to write it out for you, all right? So just bear with me 1 second while I load up that music. Okay, and I'll kind of show you as I'm doing this here as well, all right? So let's, and by the way, I know some people are going to ask which notation program are you using. I use Sibelius, okay? So let me do this, do that, let's copy that. What am I doing? Nope, not that. There we go. do this. Let's be lick number 2, and here will be lick number 3. Let's get rid of these other measures. Okay, thank you for being patient with me as I do this. But I think you'll like it because now you'll have, so we'll say lick idea number 1. And this will be, and all of this sheet music, like I said, you'll be able to download it. So you'll have these licks that you can go ahead and download. All right, and let's just put this one, lick idea number 3. All right, and I'll go through and do this as fast as possible. Let's get rid of that measure. Okay, so this is going to start with a res. That was that. And let me just get my lick again. Okay, this would be a triplet. Okay, all right, so there's my first lick right there. And I'll just put my little staccato on there so I have that. All right, and let's make this a little bit bigger so you guys can actually see that. Okay, so there's lick idea number 1. Okay, so now let's get down a different lick idea. Let's do this. I'm going to show you this. All right, so I'm right here in TCI. Let's go to TCI exercise. Well, let's do exercise number 5. Let's see what the rhythm here is for TCI exercise number 5. Take a look at the sheet music. Okay, there we go. All right, let's do this. We'll end on a quarter note right here. All right, D ba triple la D ba. All right, so yeah, I like that one. So. Okay, so here we go. All right, perfect. Okay, let's go back to TCI since we're having good luck with that. And let's go to TCI. There's, like I said, there's, 30 plus of these, 39, I believe. I'm just using the first 4 for right, or the first 5 right now. But actually, we just did that rhythm, so we won't use that one. Let's go to TCI exercise. We'll try exercise number 3. See what the rhythm is for that one. Okay. Alrighty, and oh yeah, D ba ba D ba D ba D ba da. D ba ba D ba D ba D ba da. And all those rhythms are vocalized in the TCI program. All right, so let's see here. All right, that'll work. Whoops, I think I got the wrong rhythm here. Oh yeah, I messed that up. Oops. And this, I'm just going to do this for the rhythm. I'll show you. I'll move this over here. I'm just going to do this as the rhythm, a dotted half note, which is really the same thing as this rhythm. Okay, it's really 3 beats there. So rather than tying over, I don't need to do that. Okay, all right, so now I got my 3 licks. Let's do this, and let's do, actually no, let's do this, because you're going to want to see the virtual keyboard. All right, so you're not going to be able to really see these licks. They're going to be a little bit too small. I recognize that. Once again, if you're coming in late to this session, you can go over to the site. You will need to log in to be able to download the sheet music, right? You don't need a paid account. You just need a free account. That's absolutely fine. And it will be up later on today. But you can watch the replay without logging in. All right, but if you want these licks and want to be able to download them, you just have to log in, and it'll be right there along with the replay. All right, so now I got my 3 licks. And that last note, you can hold it out or play it short. Really, it's up to you. Let me play each of the 3 licks slowly so you have that. All right, so here we go. Let's do that again. And let's do good musicianship here, and we'll add in that metronome. I'll put the metronome right here so you can see the 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. And we'll put this down to 90. And actually, let's play it even slower for you. Let's go down to 75. Good. All right, so obviously there are your 3 licks, and like I said, you will be able to download these, right, and be able to print them off and all of that good stuff. Okay, so let's get out of that. All right, so again, a review, your practice actions. Number 1, get down the simple bass line. Number 2, play the penta scale over that bass line. And then number 3, change the order of the notes. And then finally, number 4, what I want you to do is create 3 licks using either TCI rhythms, which I did there, or use your own rhythms, doesn't matter, whichever one, all right? And play 3 licks and then move in between those 3 licks. And that's it. Those are your practice actions. You do those 4 practice actions and you're going to find success at being able to get started with improvisation. If you're an advanced player, go ahead and take a look at those advanced ideas that I showed you a little bit earlier.